What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Synexing podcast. Today, I am with my man Chuck. What's going on, Chuck? Thank you so much for hopping on the show, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I know for most of the world, or at least your coworkers, kind of know you as the man who runs everything from IT to security related. But I just want to give you like 30 seconds of your time of time here, just kind of introduce yourself, and have the audience get acquainted with who you are, and then we'll kind of get rock and rolling.
I currently work as the IT manager for an accounting firm on Long Island in New York. Before that, I was working 12 years in commercial banking. Cybersecurity has kind of been my forefront. That's what I was always been shooting for, but tech support and training and things like that. I wear a lot of hats, and especially I like smaller businesses like the one I'm at. We're only about 60 people at the accounting firm, and wearing a lot of hats keeps it fresh every day. I would not want to work in a large corporation where you just do the same thing. So I like wearing a lot of hats, learning everything that's new, and just being up to date on everything from server hardware, services, applications, and of course, security.
So, I mean, from your perspective, accounting firms, I know that you guys have a lot of applications that you guys manage. At least that's what you're like mostly known for, right? So, like,
Yeah.
first off, A, how the hell do you manage all these apps by yourself? I'm just kind of curious, just more on a personal note. And then B, what are like some tips or tricks that you feel like some companies don't necessarily do or maybe overlook when it comes to security because maybe it's they just get too overwhelmed, they're just not sure what direction to take it, and so on and so forth. Like, what have you seen happen in other, within your industry?
Um, yeah, there's a lot of applications and there's a lot of hodgepodge. So a lot of workstations I see, they would just have the software that they need installed, and then that's pretty much it. So what I did is we went with Citrix. So we have a virtual desktop environment pretty much. So everyone's working on the same exact machine. And what that does is it really helps simplify the update process. So everybody's on the same version. You update one Citrix server and then you just replicate it out one night. It really helps with those application and patch updating because the laptops and workstations, they're bare bones minimum. Everybody has to work in Citrix, so they're all in the same versions. It makes updating and security updates a lot simpler. And I think that's one big tackle that some of these firms have is with all these applications, keeping track of updating everybody's individual laptop because a lot of like workstation management systems like RMMs would have the ability to patch basic things like Adobe, VLC, maybe Corel and like a couple other, well-known, computer programs, but not these specific ones. You usually have to write batch updates, write scripts, push out custom group policies, and that just becomes a nightmare, I think. And I believe that becomes overlooked. And I've talked to other firms where they're like, what version of this program are you on? And we're like, oh, we're on the latest one. And they're like, how do you do it? Because the way it was before Citrix is you would have to go to every workstation, and that's between 60 to 70 workstations, and update each one individually. So I think just patch management is one of the tough things for help desk people in accounting firms.
Do you feel like that's kind of the biggest also vulnerability for accounting firms? Because
No, I don't think it's the biggest vulnerability, but it's definitely the biggest pain. Sorry, truffle stop. I think that's one of the biggest pains. That it's such a huge burden for a lot of accounting firms that I think that's the top goal. Not the biggest vulnerability risk, but definitely the top. Like, oh, I don't want to do this, and they just push it off.
I see. So, like, I mean, doesn't that technically create vulnerabilities though? Because like it's getting pushed off in a sense. What do
Oh,
you see being
absolutely.
like the biggest like entry point for hackers when it comes to accounting firms?
A lot of phishing emails. We get a lot of solicitations. People just get like, "Hey, can you look at my taxes?" And they just send over a PDF, and it's a macro laced PDF. A lot of that when just these malicious solicitations, for example. So that's probably a big way that it happens. Is obviously I think for a lot of firms, it's just via email.
Interesting. And are you big on like employee trainings? Like, do you have like things set up in place where that's like constantly happening? How do you keep your end users like up to date on what not to click on?
So we have cybersecurity training. We have an outside vendor, and we run cybersecurity training. Then we also run simulated phishing emails.
Mm.
campaign. So we try to pretend to be a solicitation, or we pretend to be a QuickBooks Online downloadable file or something like that to try to get the user to click. And if they do, then they have to take another 15-minute training course. So we do the minimum once a year for like, it's over an hour of training, and they have to do that every year, even though it's pretty much the same thing, but we try to mix it up with other little modules like creating better passwords, how to put password protect PDFs and zip files, things like that. But yeah, really through training and just the phishing simulations really gets people thinking before they click on something.
So has there ever been like a situation that you've gone through, like maybe a breach or something, maybe not with this company, just previous career kind of experience that you remember that you can kind of educate us on like what you did to get over it or like move from the situation, kind of maybe somebody can learn from?
Yeah, there was an email breach, a social engineering attack that I did, and a server hardware failure. Which one you want to know? I got three pretty good stories.
Tell me which one like sticks out the most for you. Like that was like, oh my God, this was a crazy situation.
The scariest one was the email breach. We had I was working at a bank, and the bank was purchasing new land, and what it was a horse rehabilitation non for profit, and they were about to buy this huge lot of land, and it was like $6 million, and they were wiring the money to this contractor. And somehow they said, "Oh, we're going to wire the money. We're going to give you the details tomorrow." And later that day, they got the details saying, "Hey, just email us now. Just wire the money now. The money has to be there tomorrow." And since they were just talking on the phone, the representative went ahead and did that information. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, next day in the morning, our customer was crying because somehow $6 million was taken out, and she didn't even get the information yet.
Holy.
So what I did was I actually looked into the emails. I actually went into the headers, and I could see through the transactions, and the ones that were fake were coming from a different IP address entirely. So they were spoofing the email address, and I don't know how they did it. It wasn't a hack or a breach on their side, but it was like a man in the middle attack. I'm still not sure. Like, I investigated as far as I could, but somehow they were monitoring these emails, not from our side, but possibly from their side, and they just kind of inserted this email into them because the reply to was something completely different, but you don't see the reply to. So that was a really scary one because it just happened so quickly. These people were watching and monitoring this organization, but also this organization was on social media for the last 2 months saying, "Hey, we're about to expand, we're buying this property," and they were letting it known that they're about to make this huge $6 million purchase for these acres of property to get more horses for their rehabilitation practice. And that was, again,
The money's gone. Like just never like.
we were able to get it back because it was quick enough. The holding bank, so you move the money overnight, it goes over, and then there's a holding period. It's very, very short window. There was a possibility that they could have gone to the bank and cashed out, but $6 million, you can't cash that out that fast. It has to be held. So it was actually about to be moved again on the next cycle, and we caught it just in time. So luckily we contacted that bank, and they were like, "Yeah, this is an overseas account with a blah blah blah," and they were like, "Yeah, this is a suspicious account, but this is like one of the first things," and they told us this is happening for weeks. So the other bank knew about this transaction, which is even crazier. But we were able to receive all the money. There's only a few $1,000s missing, and we're not sure where that went. We think that went towards fees for the other bank.
That is what a crazy story, man.
Yeah, I have the emails saved too somewhere. Like
you're like, I'm gonna print this up and put it.
I'm printing this up because these are the things, the stories you hear about, and when I actually saw it, we were all just in awe, and it was I don't want to say incredible, but it was frightening.
Well, I mean, I feel like a part of us security guys, like we'll look at the other side, we're like, "Hey, we don't condone any of this, and I hate you for doing this," but like, wow, that was smart. Like,
Yeah. I don't know how they did it. Like they were on it, these people, and they were down to the email signature was the correct formatting. Like those emails were perfect. Everything was, you could not catch it by the naked eye.
So, looking back, do you feel like you could have done anything to prevent that?
On our side, no. The only thing to prevent something like that, to prevent spoofing, is to create something called the DMARC or an SPF listing, and then do DKIM signatures. But our bank had one at that time, so nobody could spoof us. But this other company, as their small company that they are, somebody, I think they set up a Gmail or like a live Cloudflare email account or something like that, and they didn't create an anti-spoofing DMARC for them. So if they had that, it would have been in place. But on our side, I kept telling my chief information officer, like, there's no way that we weren't hacked. We couldn't do this. They were the ones that were spoofed. They were the ones that were, ultimately vulnerable to this. So we told them about it, and of course that goes way right over their heads because they're just a non-for-profit and they just hire someone's nephew to do their their website and stuff, and then set up and get it all working properly, but not securely.
I'm shocked, like, because that's a big amount of cash. I mean, you guys are a bank. It makes sense, and it's something for people to really listen because, like, it can happen so fast.
Yeah,
Like, like
yeah,
blink of an eye, you're like, oh, what just went down? Where do we go next?
yeah.
So, from here, like, I guess, do you have, like, top 5 tips that, hey, if you were sitting with another bank and you just kind of were like, imagine like it's your little son, hey son, these are the things that I recommend you do. Like, what are the 5 top things for you?
What kept me in this field is CYA. Cover your butt. Always cover your butt. Always follow procedures. Banks are notorious for being extremely rigorous with their protocols and procedures, and we didn't follow it, so we could have been liable for the money. And the reason for that is because right before we do any transfer, we're supposed to call the number that's registered on the account and then confirm any wire transfer over $1,000. And we didn't do that because it was end of day. It was like 4:30 or something like that, and the other place closed. Like, these people knew the exact sweet time to send that email. So following protocols, follow your procedures, always cover your butt, always have a way out. Um, you know, is what I would tell my son, is always make sure that you have an like an escape route or a plan B in place.
I see. So from your, it's like that. So there was a mistake from the team where it's like the policies weren't necessarily full. So that's so interesting. It always comes down to the person at the other line.
Yeah.
Um, so from now, well, like, in terms of where you're at right now with your career in the bank, where do you kind of see the future of technology going, especially in cybersecurity?
Oh, it's also, I think it's always going to be the cat and mouse game. Um, we got to buy something better, and then the hackers are going to get something even better than that. Then we have to get something better. I think it's not a whack-a-mole, but it's just trying to always have the best defense out there. And then also just training. I still know a lot of small companies that just don't train their employees, and it's not expensive to do some of this training stuff. It's relatively cheap. Some of these training courses, even just putting together a list of YouTube videos and just having employees watch them I think can make a big difference. But I think it's always going to be this cat and mouse game of just trying to stay ahead of the bad guys.
It's the game, huh? All right. Well,
Yeah.
hey Chuck, where can people find you online if they want to look you up, kind of reach out to you, all that kind of good stuff? Maybe talk to you a little bit more about this incident.
So I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to be a little bit more networky. I'm on LinkedIn at I think it's just Chuck Kissel.
Cool.
Um,
Very cool. Yeah.
and,
This was your first
and
podcast, right?
this is my first podcast
Awesome.
for cybersecurity. Yeah.
Yeah. I know
Um,
you've done other types of shows before. That's super cool.
yeah. Everything else has been closed off for the most part. Um,
That's awesome. So people, okay, so
so
you're mainly on LinkedIn, correct?
primarily LinkedIn. My Facebook is kind of closed off, so is my Instagram. But yeah,
Oh,
LinkedIn is the best place to contact me for anything. If there's any accounting firms out there, I'm part of the BDO Alliance.
nice.
BDO Alliance is a collection of accounting firms and tax firms around the country. So I'm listed on their directory too. So if you're part of that, that's another good way to get a hold of me.
Sweet. Awesome. Chuck, thank you so much for all the insights and advice, man. Appreciate it. And
Yeah.
for everybody that's listening, if you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Bye.